something. At that time, I was thinking of doing something strong because everybody I knew wanted a full body. So I tell the guy, no, this ain't it. I want something else. I don't like it. And apparently, I disrespected the master roller. So he rolls me something else. I was like, hey, try this. Basically, I'm in the corner. I'm trying it again in my little corner by myself, and I'm sweating profusely, bro. I'm just sweating. I look up. They're over there laughing at me, right? He put I think 8 or 9 Lanjeros in it. It was brutal. And then my guy Ben, because he's translating for me, he tells me, he wanted to teach you a lesson. I said, well, lesson taught. Let's start over. All right.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Deep Cuts Live. I'm your host, Antoine Reed, and today we have with us Kevin Brown from Konscious Cigars. He's a first-timer, so it's always exciting for me. So I hope you're excited as well, Kevin, but welcome to Deep Cuts Live.
Absolutely excited. Thank you for having me, bro.
Yeah, it's like, I know when we're filming this, to me, I don't know what the temperature is there, but it's like the hottest day of the year here. Or it's getting there. I haven't reached it yet, but we're getting close to like the hottest day of the year here in North Carolina. So,
you're in Carolina. Okay. What part?
So I'm in Durham. I
got family up that way, bro, and Whiteville.
Okay. Yeah. So we're approaching that. I think the weekend here is going to be like the hottest it's been all year. So, so thank you for joining me on this. I know when we did a podcast earlier this week, our guest was doing it outside and he was melting. So hopefully you're a little bit more comfortable indoors. But thank you for joining me. Like I said, I followed your brand on Instagram for some time, but I still feel like there's a lot for me to learn. And I'm sure that a lot of other people are also going to learn a whole lot from watching this episode about your brand.
Awesome.
I always like to give people a little bit of context of where we met. So we really met for the first time like a couple weeks ago at the PCA, or Premium Cigar Association trade show. So you were part of the boutique pavilion. So how did that work out for you?
Wonderful, man. A lot of buzz, a lot of contacts. Everything worked out well. It's a great thing that they put together. Very appreciative of it.
Yeah, like for me, it's great to learn about new brands, because everyone always wants to know like what's new, and yet there's so many different brands out there that they have yet to experience or smoke through in the case of a cigar company. So there's so many brands out there that they just don't tap into for whatever reason. So I like the pavilion just because it gave a chance to really get to know a lot of companies and see what they're doing. And I'll tell people that with that pavilion, no company was the same. So you all kind of approach the craft in a whole different way.
Correct.
So since it's your first time, I get to ask all the fun questions of kind of getting to know you questions. So with those people who are on here for the first time, I always like to start really at the beginning. So growing up, I can't imagine you thought that you were going to get into the cigar industry.
Correct. I did not.
So growing up, what did you think you were going to do? What did you want to be? What was all that? What was your childhood like?
Early childhood, I thought I wanted to be a baseball player, but taking away back, because I just found out you're from Carolina, and tobacco. Let me tell you a correlation real quick on that. So my mother's side's from Carolina. When I was a kid, I stayed up there, right? My earliest memory of my grandfather, which he passed when I was young, I don't remember much, but he smoked a pipe. So my earliest senses of tobacco was the pipe. And then you fast forward and move back to Tampa, and this is the cigar capital of the world, so more tobacco. So I feel like I was, even though I didn't know it then, I feel like I was supposed to do something with tobacco. Now it makes sense to me. But growing up, I thought I'd be a baseball player as a kid. I really thought I'd be a baseball player. I was okay at it. I wasn't that good, but I still thought that's what I would become at some point.
It's funny because you're the second guest in a while who's coming on Deep Cuts who wanted to be in baseball. So we had Miguel on from Crown Heads, and he thought, the same thing, like he was going to get into baseball. So you're starting to see a lot of correlations with baseball people who don't make it or don't get a career in baseball. It seems like the next great thing is cigars.
It's tobacco.
So obviously you didn't just start in cigars. So professionally, like what have you done leading up to your company?
So graduated in 96, Brandon High School in Tampa, Florida. I ended up starting my job, which I'm still at right now, in 97, which is UPS. I've been there since 97. In early 2000, I think between 2000 and 2002, I went to a technical school, a trade school, to learn how to do back in those days, web design was a new thing. Web design, graphic designs. So I went and studied that for a few years and got my certificate, a degree in that. Still while I'm at UPS. Started a little business, but I didn't really know much. I was trying to set up programming, do sites for people. It was okay for a little bit. Fast forward to 2010, I got into the hair care product. I used to sell women's weave hair. I did that from 2010 to 2015. I stopped doing that because I quote unquote I became conscious, right? So I stopped selling women hair. I had a little hang up with that. So, and then in 2016, my partners and I, some guys I used to smoke with, we got together and we opened up the first Black Cigar Lounge in Tampa, Florida. And that was from 2016 to January of 2022 last year. And I launched Conscious in December of 2019. So that's me in a nutshell.
So where would you say you got your entrepreneurial spirit from?
I've always, man, nothing I would condone, but I've done a lot growing up. I always wanted multiple income, so I worked a job, but I also did other things. So I would say my entrepreneur spirit came from, being poor, wanting more money. So that's where my entrepreneur spirit came from.
So you're in UPS, and we're with UPS right now as we're filming it. UPS just went through there was going to be a possible strike, and everyone in the car industry was like waiting and hoping like this would not happen because it was really going to slow down the industry. So how do you feel as because I saw you post on Facebook about this, but you're kind of on both sides of this. Like,
yes.
You're going to get hit kind of like either way. So how do you feel about like how the situation kind of played out?
I was on the PCA website or something. I was on social media, and I actually chimed in and said, hey, this hits me both ways, because if we go on strike, I'm not making money from my 9-to-5 job, which is UPS. And if we can't ship product, I can't get tobacco out. So I get hit both ways. I feel it harder than anybody. But it was a verdict. Of course, we still got to do some, as union members, still got to do some voting. To vote yeah or nay on it, on what they averted. So for me, being there for that many years, I kind of wanted to strike. The company is pushing pretty hard on us, so it's good to sometimes have that union as a backing to push back at the company. So things are even out a little bit. So I'm always for advancing us and the future people coming behind me. So that's important. So I was with it, but so far it's been averted, and we still got to vote on it. But overall, just like anything, is rules and regulations. So once it's set in the contract, we will abide by whatever that is. And we just move forward.
Now, for those of you in UPS who drive the truck, like, you don't have air conditioning in the truck, do you?
Nope, never have.
To me, like,
and I'm in Tampa, Florida on top of that.
Oh my gosh. Like I can't imagine. Cause like I said, like it's hot here and even being in a apartment, it's like hot. So I can imagine being out in the truck and all you have is like, you know, the breeze that you get from the, you know, from just riding around. And that just seems crazy.
So we got a saying, man, you know, because if you ever see the UPS, what we call a package car, the truck, the brown truck, you see the package car, the doors are always open. So if you want AC, man, wet yourself and do 60 down the highway and you'll cool off.
Crazy. So how did starting these different businesses kind of set you up for the cigar industry? Because like you said, you learned graphic design, because I started out in graphic design too. So I know how that is. So it's not exactly like it's fun to be creative, but at the same time, I found for me, you know, like you were never creating, or I felt like, I should say for me, I felt like I was never creating stuff for myself. So I was creating stuff, you know, like made to order for what other people. And that was not fun. You know, after a while, it was just like, because you'd be like, well, you know, you can do this, it'll be a little bit better. And they're like, no, I like this. And you're like, that looks terrible. And you would have to kind of put them into it. And you're just like, no, like this is not. So how did all that kind of stuff kind of set you up, that and the hair business and everything else that you did? Like, how did that kind of set you up for the cigar industry?
For me, man, I don't know. It's especially the web design part, that really didn't set me up for the tobacco, but the hair products did. So I had this thing where I was selling women hair. And like I said, I became Conscious, which is the name of my company. And the Conscious part was this. So I hope I don't get, nobody gets upset, but hey, it's what it is. I had this thing where I didn't like selling. I didn't want to hear a woman say, I don't look good without, you know, X, Y, and Z, whether it's her hair, her lashes, whatever, right? And I was okay with selling it. But I found some women just didn't want, I felt like I was selling crack to my own people. Here I am liking natural hair and selling, you know, processed or Indian hair at the time to people, which is cool. And I learned a lot. Like I learned that women, you know, it has something called protective styling, right? Like just because you see a woman with a weave or a wig or whatever on, it doesn't mean she doesn't have her natural hair. I learned that during that process. I just didn't like the fact that some of the ladies I dealt with didn't feel like they weren't beautiful without the extra stuff. So that's where the consciousness kicked in, hence the name Conscious. So that's why I stopped selling it and started, you know, in the cigar world. And it all merged together because during this time I was smoking at a cigar lounge, my local lounge here, learning, you know, meeting people, learning about tobacco and all that kind of just morphed together. So it didn't pretty much set me up for it, but this is kind of around the same time frame that I actually made the transition to move on. So that's the connection for me.
And you were talking about how you opened the lounge in Tampa. Mm-hmm. So did that come before Conscious Cigars, or did that come during it or after? Like, where was that in the position of everything?
That was in 2016, and that was before Conscious. When me and the guys got together, and the young ladies, because there was a few of us, and when we got together, and we discussed it, my initial thought was, and I voiced my opinion at the time. I told them, I was like, hey, if we decide to do this, and if I do this, I'm gonna eventually want my own cigar, because to me it just makes sense. If you have a cigar lounge, to have a cigar, like I can generate traffic, you know, both ways, right? So it was called Maduro Marauders. That was first, and then Conscious came about 3 years later. Mm-hmm.
So obviously, a lot of people who are in the cigar industry, when they come through the retail, they learn a lot, you know, and it kind of helps them figure out a lot before they start their own brand. So for you, you know, did working in retail kind of shape how you know, did it reshape how you saw cigars? Because I know that being a consumer of cigars and then turning into like a business owner who that's like your product, that's how you make your money, that's how you make your living. Like I'm sure that changed how you kind of saw cigars.
Oh, absolutely. And I still tell people to this day, when I have when I'm out, doing work across wherever state I'm in, and I'm talking to different lounge owners or band owners, I always start off with, hey, I've seen it on both sides. So yeah, once you get that side, man, you can't unsee it. So yes, it helps you out tremendously, no doubt about it.
So for you, I mean, coming into this thing as a consumer, like you just smoke cigars, and then coming through the retail end of it where you're selling cigars, like what did you discover when you were dealing with customers? Like, did it change? Like what were they looking for from cigars? Like what were they not getting? Like, I'm sure, like, because I know most businesses, establish themselves by finding a gap in the industry and filling that gap. So what problems did you see from a retail standpoint? You said, okay, when I start my own cigar brand, I'm going to do this differently to kind of fill that gap.
For me, it was strictly education. You get a lot of people that come to your lounge, and I tell lounge owners all the time, like your customers, they look for you for that guidance, right? So a lot of people come in and they don't know what they want to smoke. They have no idea. So it's your job as that lounge owner. So, get to understand your clientele, your customer, what they're drinking, what they're eating, what they're smoking, what you can pair it with smoking wise. And it's all about education. So that is directly to when I got my cigar. Like, before I put anything to the market, I created what I created, and I would bring it back to my lounge and other people in Tampa and explain to them what I just made. Tell me what you think about it, what it tastes like to you. So for me, it was about education. Like, I want to know what you're looking for in it, what you think is missing, or what you love about it, what you don't love about it. So it's always education for me, learning about it.
What question do you get asked?
The spice, probably the spice of it. Like, some people was like, hey, because I had Habanos, and once I explained Habanos are spicy, X, Y, and Z, but then I would say, then it would smoke mine. I'd be like, well, it wasn't that spicy. I say it's true. It's not a heavy spice. So because it's different spectrums of the spice, right? I have more of a light or a medium spice. So that question I would get a lot in the beginning. Like, I thought it'd be more spicier because I told them Habano would kind of translate to spice. And I had to kind of, reel that in and correct that a little bit so they understood what I meant. It still has spice to it, but it doesn't have to be, knock your socks off spicy or peppery or whatever the words you want to use. And for you to say, oh, this is an enjoyable cigar. And sometimes people, they're smoking that very, very peppery or spicy cigar and they think they're enjoying it because that's all they know, until you just tell them the difference between, flavorful cigars versus, powerful full body cigars. So like I say, by the education, you just show them and you talk, you tell them, you show them how it is, what's the comparison, and you let them judge again. So if you like that kick in your throat, perfectly fine with me as well. It's what you like.
I feel like spice is one of the easiest things to kind of pick up on when you're smoking a cigar. Other flavor notes are a little bit more difficult sometimes. And I feel like some people feel the pressure from reading reviews and ratings on other websites that, I need to pick out all these. I need to pick out these notes. Like, if I don't taste anything other than tobacco, something's wrong with me. Like, did you encounter that too? Because like I said, spice is really easy because you do kind of feel it. You sense it lingers on your tongue. It lingers on your cheeks. It comes out through your nose with the smoke, and you kind of, that's easy. But other notes, like flavor notes, and then you see these reviews and they're like, notes of espresso, notes of, dark chocolate. And you're like, I don't really see that, and it's like everybody's palate is so different. So did you, as a retailer, did you have to deal with that too, where people are coming in saying, I want a chocolate cigar or I want a cigar that I want a cigar that, that's sweet. And then you're like, okay, like, and did you have to give them education on what that really means?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when you say chocolate cigar or sweet cigar, do you actually mean flavored? Like as in like a flavored cigar, or do you mean like a sweet note in a regular cigar, like a regular tobacco? So yes, you would have to do that. And I'm one of these guys, man. I don't get into all the oh, this is hazelnut and like you said, whatever. I mainly taste from region, right? Like I know if I taste this type of spice, that might be from like Jalapa, in Esteli, Nicaragua, or X, Y, and Z. I don't get into all those notes. And I also tell people it's so hard because everybody tastes something different. I don't know what you ate, smoked, or whatever, but there's just a normal palate could just be totally different from mine. So when people smoke my cigars and I see them, they go, hey, I taste X, Y, and Z. I go, well, I'm glad you did, because whatever you taste is what you taste. I just had this conversation yesterday with somebody, and it was like, no, if they say they taste ice cream, they're wrong. You're going to miseducate them. I say, no, if they taste ice cream, then how can you tell a person what they're tasting of their palate? I just can't do that. So whatever you taste is what you taste. Now, I do put certain things out there that you would taste in a cigar, right? That should be there. Now, what you taste is what you taste. And I don't argue with people. I never have. I just let people be. Like I say, I do region. So if you want something earthy, like you want something that's pungent, I'm going to give you a Honduras tobacco, a cigar from Honduras or certain parts of DR, You want something like, smooth, I'm going to say, no, let's go straight Esteli right here. It's just, that's how I do it. I know everybody have their own bag, but that's how I kind of roll.
So at what point did you decide you wanted to launch Konscious Cigars?
Actually, when like I said, when me and the team first started talking about the lounge, we're having our meetings, doing, discussing the lounge we want to get. At that moment, bro, I knew I wanted to do it. It just had to wait. We had to get our ship together first. And I said ship, not the other word. Get our ship together first before we can move forward, right? So I waited on that, and then I reached out. If you don't know, I'm with Don Kiki, Karen Berger. That's who I pals with. That's who I do my cigars with. So I used to go to her lounge up in Daytona from time to time, and I knew some people I knew a guy named Ben. I kind of met her once or twice. So once we got the lounge up and it was leveled, I said, it's time to start looking out, right? Start looking for stuff. And I reached out to them, and I reached out to, I think, Ben first, and introduced me to Karen. We talked about it, and that's how it started. But I knew I wanted to do it, when I knew I wanted to be a part of the cigar lounge. I knew it from day one. I just had to learn it, had to get over there and learn about the tobacco,
What kind of advice did Karen give you?
Man, Karen, she still gives me if I have a question, I still will call Karen to this day. Don't nobody mistake that. So Karen gives me great advice. Back then, my first cigar, it was mainly a guy named Ben. Me and him did all the talking, more than me and Karen. And his number one, what I remember the most was he used to say, he had his little saying, which I adopted, is your cigar has to have its own legs. Meaning you have to produce something that speaks for itself. It can walk on its own. I don't have to sell you this cigar. I'm not a salesman, right? I can just tell you what I have. I can offer that to you, but the tobacco itself has to walk on its own. People have to enjoy it on their own. So that was one bit of advice that I really, really appreciated back then.
What was the first blend that you kind of worked on? How quickly did that blend come together?
The first blend I did was a full body cigar. That didn't work out. First of all, I tell this story sometimes. So I get over there. My mind, like when I first wanted to go, I wanted to do a full body cigar. That I was thinking to myself, do a full body cigar. I get over there. I meet the master blender for the first time. I kind of tell him what I want to do. And we kind of messed around a little bit. And he was showing me this and showing me that. And he made a cigar. He pretty much made the very, very first one. So I tried it. And I was like, by myself in the back of the corner smoking it. I'm like, this ain't strong enough. This ain't it. Right. That's what I told him. I wanted something. At that time, I was thinking of doing something strong because everybody I knew wanted a full body. So I tell the guy, no, this ain't it. I want something else. I don't like it. And apparently I disrespected the master roller. So he rolls me something else. I'm like, hey, try this. Basically, I'm in the corner. I'm trying it again in my little corner by myself. And I'm sweating profusely, bro. I'm just sweating. I look up. They're over there laughing at me, right? He put I think 8 or 9 Lanjeros in it. It was brutal. And then my guy Ben, because he's translating for me, he tells me, he wanted to teach you a lesson. I said, well, lesson taught. Let's start over. All right. So, what I end up doing is I had one night because I stayed I stayed out there by myself, in the factory by myself at the time, on the little side room in the factory. No Wi-Fi, no nothing. One night I was out there by myself, sleep, me and the guard, and I had this like epiphany, right? It said, why not do something medium body, right? Medium to full. Because, when I was thinking about it, because I had nothing but time to think all night in a foreign country, right? I thought to myself, well, a Connecticut smoker, a light smoker will come up and smoke a medium. And a full body will come down and smoke like a medium to full too. So I went in the middle. Just over there, I made that decision on the spot. The next day, that's when I did the Habano, which is my Habano, which is a medium to full cigar. It just clicked on me one night, man, and that's how I did it. That's why I started, which was my Robusto and my Lancero, the first 2 I did of that blend. And it worked out because I was like, man, I think more people would smoke. My first time out, I want everybody to try it. I don't want to do nothing too strong because I might alienate the people who like smokers. So that's why I went in the middle to try to get more of the masses.
So when you're putting together Konscious, what would you say was the biggest challenge that you faced?
In the beginning, honestly, it was trying to find somebody who could actually do the logo I had in my head that you see now. I reached out to, several different people. People tried. It just wasn't what I was looking for. They just couldn't pull it off. And I finally found someone down south, and the guy was able to make it happen. He actually pulled it off, and I was like, "This is exactly what I wanted." And that was my hardest thing in the beginning, was trying to find this logo. And that was part of my hardest piece, man, to be honest. I haven't had a rough time with this, man. Once you prepare, I believe in preparing, right? So I had capital, I had ideas, I had, exact location where I can go. I had everything kind of set up through preparation. So once I started the process, it kind of just routed off for me, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm sure that working in retail kind of gave you a little bit of context or kind of help rather than you coming in completely, saying, I'm part of a cigar brand and trying to get in there and do it without that background in retail.
That is correct. Like I say, learning when you're a lounge owner, you get to smoke so many cigars and taste so much stuff. And you also get to meet so many, you meet band owners, you meet reps, and and just hearing different stories, or how something's produced, or a mistake they might have made, and you think to yourself, I don't want to make that mistake, or you like something that they did. Like I was a fan of the L40. When I did my Lancero, I wanted when somebody smoked my cigar, I wanted them to feel the same joy that I felt when I smoked the L40 Lancero. So, you just learn as you move around, it's just put it together as you go.
Now to backtrack a little bit, I'm going to try to connect different points here. When you started the cigar lounge or the retail store, what was your motivation for starting that?
So me and my guys got together, man. There was no representation here in Tampa, Florida, for Black smokers, right? So we go to all these lounges, we spend all our money over here, right? And sometimes we complain about what some lounge owner has done or haven't done, right? So me and my guys, one day we was just like, basically, why are we complaining? If you don't like it, create your own. You don't have to complain. If that person wants to run their business that way, that's their right to. You don't have to spend your money there. Or you can create your own space. And that was the whole motivation behind it. We had no representation here. And it's wonderful, man, because, we started that back in 2016. Fast forward now there's, I think 3 Black, I know it's 2 for sure. Maybe 1 is still around. 3 Black lounges here now. We got a bunch of mobile lounges here. And, representation is very, very important to me. And I'm happy right now in this space in Tampa. I'm very, very happy because there's a lot of people doing good things in the cigar culture here in Tampa.
So now with that, when you were starting Konscious, the cigar brand, did you also say you wanted to kind of do that same thing but on a brand standpoint, like have a brand that was Black owned, or did that kind of play
absolutely
into
yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's 100% play. I thought this. So when I got into when I started looking for cigars, I was like, there's not much representation for black owned cigar brand owners either. Mm-hmm. That was my initial thought. But when I started it and started moving around, traveling a little bit and doing events, I did see there were other black band owners out here that was around before I was around. So I was kind of wrong on that, but for the most part, when I started, I didn't see the representation that I wanted to see, like for myself, like consciousness, right? Like that's the community that I'm a part of, and I wanted to see more of that. But then I didn't see it in the beginning, but as I met people, I started seeing it. I really did see it. My girls down south, I met these ladies first, Tres Lindas, Black Cubans, Afro-Cubans down in Miami. And when I met them and they told me their blends, right, the name of their blends, is for different shades of the Black woman in the Afro-Cuban culture. I was like, that's consciousness to me. And then I ran across Black Starline, Eric. Black Starline, that's Marcus Garvey's old ship name, So there were people out here with consciousness. Now, I didn't catch all of it in the beginning, but it didn't take long for me to find it when I started getting out here and moving around. But it absolutely played a part.
I think for some reason, Black owned brands, it takes a little bit more work for them to get the attention sometimes in the platforms that other brands do. And I'm not sure why. I do think things are kind of changing maybe a little bit, because I'm hearing retailers, especially at PCA a couple weeks ago, there were some retailers that were saying their customers were actually asking for representation in the humidor. So they were looking for giving them a mandate to go to PCA, the trade show, and come back with some Black-owned brands that they could, have in the humidor. And I thought that was great to hear. I think that's the only way. I think that's the only way. Sometimes you have to make those demands. I was listening to something on the news today, and they were talking about politics, and they were saying that the same thing. Like, if you want change, you have to force it upon your leaders. Tell them that this is what you want, and make it a demand to the point where they go out and they have that mandate to do that. So I think a lot more consumers are, to steal your word, are maybe becoming a little bit more conscious to, that there are Black-owned brands out there, and they want them to get the fair chance to kind of be in a humidor alongside these big brands.
That is correct, man. For me, consciousness, is about uplifting somebody else, right? So I could do an interview with you and I can shout somebody's name out and uplift them. But us band owners or lounge owners or whomever, we need uplifting too, right? So that consumer can go, like you just said, go to their local lounge or whomever and be like, hey, we need y'all to bring in, at least try these folks. If you don't like the tobacco, at the end of the day, it's about tobacco. So if the cigar ain't right, then fine, move on. But at least give some of us a shot. But we need that uplifting as well from the average everyday smoker, because they're the ones who run the economy on it. That's correct.
And I think what a lot of retailers and even consumers sometimes don't understand is that, your cigars are being made sometimes in the same factories as some of their favorite brands already.
Correct.
The only difference is the band on it and the name. And of course, the different combinations of tobaccos in it, because you're, actively taking part in the blending process. So I think they don't get that sometimes, because, like you mentioned Black Starline. Well, he works with Aganorsa and Oveja Negra now. Those are two big brands. Like they're cigars are great. They get great ratings and stuff like that, and people they aren't making that connection sometimes.
It's correct. It's correct, bro. It's correct. And for me, man, when I first started, I didn't even tell people, maybe my first year or so, who I was even making my cigar. I didn't want nobody. Karen is top of the line. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to ride her coattails. I wanted to make my own way. So I wouldn't even tell people where I was getting my cigars made at. Now, but at a certain point, you have to, because, somebody wants to bring you in. They want to ask you these poignant questions. And then I think that's fair. So then I would tell people, like lounge owners, but I wouldn't go around saying it, because I wanted you to just try the cigar on your own. And you like my cigar because it's an enjoyable cigar, right? It wasn't until after, I started getting a little traction that I was now wanting to tell people, hey, this is where I make my cigar at. Because like I said in the beginning, I wanted to have my own path. And I appreciate her letting me do that, because she could have been like, oh, tell, but she doesn't. She was like, do your thing, and that's fine. And I'm happy with that.
So at this point, walk us through all the different cigars that you have in your portfolio.
You said walk you through it?
Yeah, just like describe the different cigars that you have to offer, if they're meant for maybe, the more beginner smoker or the more advanced, or someone who likes, different flavor profiles, the full body, the medium body. Let us know what you have to offer from Konscious.
All right. So one of my, I got a slogan, I got a tagline. So my slogan is the everyday smoke. So basically, these cigars are blended. You can smoke anytime, anywhere, you can pretty much pair with anything. So I have my 3 Habanos, a Lancero, a Robusto, and a Toro. So those you can smoke basically every day. Coffee in the morning. If you want to do a bourbon or a whiskey or Japanese whiskey, anytime throughout in the evening sometime, that's fine. Now, my Cameroon and my Maduro, I have a Cameroon, I also have a Maduro. Now, these are a little more complex. You still can smoke them. I mean, you still can smoke it and drink with anything, but it's not as light as the Habanos. So they have a little more pepper in it. So I always suggest, smoke what you like, but for like my Maduro here, I'm drinking it with a bourbon now, but I can easily drink this with a port wine. I like to offset mine with the little sweetness, Now, it's not a harsh Maduro. It's still flavorful. You still, I like to tell people, when you smoke this Maduro, it's like you're smoking a Lancero. You're going to enjoy it from front. It's going to be light and full all the way through. There's no dips in it. It smokes just like the draw is like a Lancero. Even though sometimes this is a bigger gauge cigar. It's a 6.5 by 64, so it's a bigger gauge. Sometimes the bigger the gauge gets, you kind of lose a little bit because of the gauge, but this is not. You're going to enjoy this all the way through as if you're smoking a very thin cigar. And those are my blends. So Habanos and Cameroon and Maduro.
Now, for your distribution plan, do you have a certain amount of storage that you want to be in, or a certain amount of or a certain retailer you're trying to target? What's your plan? Because I found that so many different cigar companies, there's some that only want to be in 200 stores or whatever. They want to be able to control it for the quality purposes. And there's others that they're like, the sky's the limit. As many as we can get into, we're going to be there. So what's your plan for, what's your strategy for Konscious?
For me, man, I use I like to say I use the Bruce Lee effect, right? Shape like water, you turn to water. So I like to use momentum. I use momentum against somebody. If you come before force, I toss you. So I use my being a boutique as my advantage, right? So I don't care to be in every store. I think I have more value if I'm in limited stores. And so let's say I'm in North Carolina, right? In Durham. Let's say you got 5 lounges there. I am okay if only 2 lounges sell me. Hopefully they're different sides of towns, right? I feel like as a boutique, my job is to help that lounge push cigars, right? So I think I have more value if if it's only strategically, they can go to 2 places to buy this particular cigar. So it's generating traffic for them. And it's also, it's also saying I have a push there, right? So I can generate X amount of people to you per month, which is enough for you to keep reordering boxes. Now, I'm not opposed to being everywhere. Don't get me wrong. But right now, my strategic thing is, I guess I can say less is more. I prefer to be strategically put in different areas in a particular city. Now it depends on the city as well. So let's say like Houston and Atlanta, they're huge. So I don't mind being in multiple lounges there, which I am. That works because of the land mass. But a smaller town, if it's 3 or 4 lounges there, 1 or 2 lounges is perfectly fine with me because I know I'm bringing value to that lounge. You can't just go anywhere and get it. Now, let's say I blow up 5 years from now, right? And everybody wants a Konscious, and I have no problem selling every lounge a box. I'm not opposed to it. But right now, I like to use that strategic value, use my boutique, my smallness to my advantage. And it's working so far.
So you said something interesting about the boutique being an advantage. And sometimes people feel like it kind of puts them in a disadvantage because depending on who you're speaking to, some companies like to kind of portray a boutique company as being, less capable of handling things that a bigger company can do, or sometimes the quality, they try to make it a quality issue. But boutique for you is an advantage. So, like, first of all, how would you define boutique? Because I feel like there's no real, depending on who you speak to, like, there's no real definition of boutique cigars. Just like there's like a moving definition of what makes a cigar premium as well. Like, we don't have a set definition of premium cigar either, but we also don't have a set definition of boutique cigar. So what does boutique mean to you?
So I would say the most political way to say it is a boutique is any brand that's not one of the big boys. If you come to PCA and if you're not in the front with those big booths, then you're a boutique. So that's how I look at it. Small companies, small batch companies, that's how I look at boutique. Now, and those who, you're right. Some people do think of it as I lost you, bro. Can you see me?
Yeah.
All right, I lost you on my page. But anyway, some people do look at it as a disadvantage. I just believe in changing the mindset, man. Just do what works for you. Like take anything you have in life and find a way to make it work. Be nimble, be strategic. Find a way to make it work for you. That's with anything. That's how I look at life. That's how I approach everything. So it could be something really bad, but at the end of the day, you figure out a way to make it work for you. And if being small, if everybody's not going to bring me in, then I want to make sure I double my value for those who do bring me in. And I'm not worried about who's not, right? So that's where I see the value at with being boutique.
I feel like the industry is shifting a lot towards boutique, in that even some of the larger companies are trying to capture the essence of boutique, if that makes any sense.
They are.
I feel like everybody kind of sees like, oh, boutique is like, people really want boutique, but I feel like it's hard to be boutique in that most of the boutique brands that I know, they're personality driven, and they're people who have good stories to tell. And there's nothing wrong with like the opposite end of that. Like if you have a brand that basically has notoriety and people, know it, and you can basically release a new cigar underneath that banner of that iconic brand, and like I guess you don't really need a story behind it. It's just continuing that legacy, I guess you could say. But boutique, it seems like more like personality, homey driven, down to earth kind of clothes. It's not less, it's not this big thing.
I respect those who've done it, who can just produce a cigar, and people, I respect that. I think it does boils down to personality, because I've been around some boutique brands like myself who kind of operate as if they're a big brand, right? And then you've been around some big brands that's pretty cool, like the boutique, like a Matt Booth, guy's cool, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it just depends on the person, how you want to run your business per se. But for overall, in a nutshell, yes, what you're saying is correct. I will agree with it in a nutshell.
Just to switch gears a little bit, as we kind of reach towards the end of our time together. The black smoker. Mm-hmm. I've heard retailers feel like that this is like a growing segment that came out of nowhere. And I don't understand it, because I feel like they've always been there, but they seem very surprised. They're like, and you read reports that come out from different groups and stuff, and they talk about, this is a growing segment of smokers. And mm-hmm. I don't know if I feel like that's true. Like maybe the black smokers becoming more present than they were before. Like, they're coming out in the open. Like you said, now that they're black brand owners, they're black retailers, they come out. I know, like when I first started going to the trade show, you didn't see a lot of black brand owners. You didn't see a lot of black retailers. You saw maybe one or two. And, and nowadays, though, it's completely different, and you see a big presence at the trade show. You see a lot at these events at, Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival, the Tampa event. To you, like, do you think things you think the industry is getting a little bit better at bringing black smokers in in diversity and, or do you think we still kind of struggle with that?
For the most part, I think the industry is getting better, but for me, it's always do what you want to do. Like, it doesn't matter if they are or aren't, right? Because you're spending your dollar out here, and if somebody isn't respecting that, spend it with someone who does. I personally think it's getting better, and I haven't been around the early days in the trade show. My guy Cigar Mike from Atlanta, he always speaks on that. Like, even when I first met Mike, and I just tell you, when I had my lounge in 2016, maybe this is also to the mindset. This was my mindset then. When I met Mike years ago, he was like, "Hey, you guys got to come to the IPCR, right? I think I'm saying that correct. IPCR."
IPCR.
Okay, yeah, that one. So. He's like, you guys got to come out there, man. You got a lounge, da, da, da. And I used to be like, man, I don't want to go. Like, I don't care to go. That was my mindset when I had my lounge in my early days, because I felt like, why did I need to go? It's probably a boys' club. That's what I'm thinking. Without having any knowledge on it. Now, this is my thing. I just know how stuff work, right? Why go there and then, somebody don't treat you right, or you don't get that account you want because you can't do X, Y, and Z, when we can just, because we had our lounge, we highlighted boutiques. When we can just keep our boutiques and have same premium tobacco at a whole less, a lesser amount, then we have to, like, big boys, you got to buy like 20 boxes. Or I can find this boutique and I might buy 5 boxes. So that was my mindset back then. So I'm assuming maybe back then, that was a lot of people's mindset, or just didn't know about it. But now, as time has, 2023 now, when I hear some of these old time guys who's been there to the original shows, and they all say the same they all are very happy to say what you just said. Now I see retailers, brand owners, more consumers. And plus, I believe the black smoker is also now, I ain't gonna say more educated, but more in depth, and like, maybe I should go to this PCA, which I wasn't then. Maybe I should go to this PCA because I can get a deal. See, I wasn't thinking that when I had my lounge in the early days. I was thinking I got to spend all this money, but hey, if you go there, you're going to get deals that particular day, that during that event. So maybe they have advanced that in their mind now. Hey, maybe I can go here and strike a deal, and also you get to meet some of your favorite, some of your big name folks, the Fuentes. It's wonderful to meet these people, and you take your pictures and knowing you get product from them. So I think all that plays a part into probably the growth of more black people going. So that's just my take on it. I'm not saying it's right, but this is my take on it.
Yeah, and hopefully people feel welcome in these spaces now, and maybe that's the big difference. Is that maybe before you felt a little bit uneasy about going for your reasons, and I'm sure everyone
Mm-hmm.
had their own reasons why they
Mm-hmm.
maybe didn't feel like they belonged in that space. And I think
Correct.
there's still a little bit of that going on, because I know like this year, I started working with the PCA, as the content director, and I know we
Mm-hmm.
had a media meeting, and I think besides myself, maybe there was like one other, Black media
Had to be
person.
Leo.
Yes. and
That's my
yet
guy.
there's other people who do media who are, women who are, different races and stuff like that. And they weren't at the meeting. And I know I saw one of them on the show floor, and I was like, why didn't you come to the media meeting? And they're like, oh, I didn't think, it was for me. And I didn't,
All right.
and I was like, no, I was like, next year you need to come. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it's for you. I was like, because you're going to have a completely different perspective. You're going to ask completely different questions than anyone else in that room. And I guess that's how I feel about the cigar industry, like, with diversity. I think it is starting to get better. I do think, like most things in the cigar industry, it is kind of a couple years or, a decade or so behind a little bit, because, like when we're talking about like women in the industry, we're getting questions like how do you make women feel comfortable? And it's like, like as if we're in the 1950s, and it's like treat them like like anybody else. And same thing with Black people. It's like, like retailers want to know, how do I make the Black consumer feel comfortable? I sort of like treat them like everyone else, so hopefully we're so hopefully with people like you in the industry, like Conscious, like growing his presence, and the other owners out there who are minorities, and hopefully the more success that you all have, the people will feel, like I said, more comfortable being in the space, and to tap into for the word of today, be more conscious of everything happening, and we can really make this industry a lot more inclusive.
Diversity is a key, man. If everybody can lean in and speak their mind or do their thing per se in this particular big bowl of what we got going on, it only makes it better.
Yeah. So where do you want to take your brand? Like, I know you kind of talked about it a couple of minutes ago about the plan, but are you the type who has like a 5-year plan or 10-year plan, or do you have like big ambitions for Conscious? Like, where do you want to see this go?
So for me, man, I think I got, if I do the math correct, I got about 10 more years of working, right? So my goal has been up until this point is to get my brand out, recognized, and try to hold that footing to my later years when I can retire and actually move around. And hopefully by then, if I can be in every state, in every city, I'd take it. 1 or 2 lounges in each city, I'd take it. And at that point, when I'm retired, I would like to I got a couple of things in my mind, man. I want to be like on the road, like buy an RV and just travel to every state, because I'm retired. I got nothing to do, and just meet people and smoke with folks. Or I'm also flirting with the idea of maybe opening up some type of a lounge here, something different in Tampa, which would which have Conscious incorporated in it. That's all I have on my mind right now. For right now, is to hit the ground running, because honestly, I've only been doing this for like 3 years, man. So I don't have nothing locked up at all. So I need to continue to grow this brand and get people out there. So that's my goal for the next few years, is just to get the brand out much as possible, global if possible. I really want to take it international.
At this point in the show, I usually like to wrap up this part of the interview with 2 basic questions. The first of those questions is, do you have a philosophy that you live by?
Yeah, man. Balance. I believe everything is balance. Balance is key. Whatever you do, try to find a balance. I think that gets us through. You got to, like, your family life, cigar life, if you're working, whatever you got going on, have a balance. If you need to work out, need to rest, whatever, have balance.
And for the last question, I want you to finish this sentence. Kevin is
conscious. If I go more in deep, I could say, man, I'm a guy that wants to see everybody win. The whole conscious concept, man, is bringing people up with you, man. As a community, we uplift each other, right? And in the cigar community, per se, in this bucket here, it's about uplifting other people. I think you go further when people are with you. You know how they say the rising tide lifts the boat. I really believe that, and that's the energy I like to put out. And I'll smoke everybody's stuff. I'm not one of these guys who only smoke mine. I smoke everybody's stuff, and if it's great, I'm gonna let you know. So I just believe in just pulling everybody up. I think that's the best way. We lift each other up.
Awesome. Now, for those people who are not watching this and they may be just listening to the audio version, can you tell people what website they need to visit, what social media they need to follow in order to kind of keep up with you and Konscious Cigars?
Yeah, on all platforms, Konscious Cigars. That's Conscious with a K. KONSCIOUS Cigars. KonsciousCigars.com. And like I said again, all social media platforms, Konscious Cigars.
Yeah, and I like how the K makes its way into other things that you're marketing, because I saw on your social media, like you have a cut and light and it's cut with a K. Okay. I felt like that was very I think the Kardashians like to do the same thing. So I was like,
oh, do they?
That millionaire mindset of branding. You're doing.
Well, I need to go read it. Do they got a book out? I need to go read it then.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, and I want you to sit tight because we're going to be filming some more stuff. For those watching or listening to this, thank you for watching and listening to Deep Cuts. If you want to see any of the past episodes or you miss any parts of this interview, you can catch it on youtube.com/deepcutslive, or you can also go to deepcutslive.com and all the past episodes are there. And thank you, Kevin, for coming on. And until next time.